Greetings. R. Frederick Riddle here with another Christian News and Views. This is episode 2616, and this is Friday, and we're looking at the first year review. That is, review of President Trump's second presidency. So let me get started. This past week, President Trump celebrated his first year of his second presidency. I thought it appropriate that we do a quick review of this. I say quick because he accomplished more in his first year than any previous president that I've ever looked at. There may be somebody out there that did more in their first year, but I really don't know of any, and I haven't heard anybody else suggest some previous presidents. It's just been amazing what he has accomplished, not only in his first year, but his first 100 days. He accomplished a while. So let's just take a quick look at these. We're going to look at the key accomplishments. So here's one, the Gaza peace agreement. In October of 2025, Trump announced a ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas, which he described as the first phase of our peace plan. This deal aimed to facilitate the release of hostages and establish a framework for lasting peace in the region, garnering cautious support from international actors. And the fact that it's still holding is an amazing fact. Every once in a while, you have the Hamas will fire something, a missile or something, and then Israel will retaliate. But it's like a flash in a pan. It flashes, burns, and then quickly dies out. And that's different than in the past, in the historical look at things. So it looks like it's holding. And he has done this with other wars as well. Here's another thing, immigration policy changes. The Trump administration received judicial support, that's a nice way of saying a Supreme Court, for its immigration enforcement agenda, allowing the resumption of rapid deportations of certain migrants. Now, that's the way the paper put it. The truth is, it's rapid deportations of illegal immigrants, not just certain, but illegal immigrants. This marked a significant legal victory for the administration's broader immigration policies. Now, this article I don't think it even mentions the border. One of the very first things, in fact, I think it was on the very first day of his, the same day he was sworn in, that he issued a executive order that shut down illegal immigration almost down to zero. It's so close that they say it's zero, because the difference between zero and what it actually might be is minuscule. So he did this, and you got to keep this in a frame of mind. He did this after we had 4 years of Biden, who said you couldn't do anything about it. And before Trump, but you had Obama, and he encouraged it. He didn't even try to stop it, as I remember. They did deport a lot of people, but they also allowed a lot of people in, and Biden just opened the floodgates. So this is an extremely important accomplishment. Here's another one, the conservative agenda implementation. Now, President Trump largely got reelected because of his conservative agenda, because he aligned himself with conservatives. Now, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I make no apologies for it. President Trump himself is not personally a conservative. He is a populist president. And within the populist movement, you have progressives and you have conservatives. He's in the conservative side. So he's conservative, but he's not part of the what you might call the Republican conservative establishment. but he aligns himself so closely with conservative values that you really can't tell the difference. The difference will become whenever he does something that we disagree with. And that's going to happen. I think it's already happened in some cases, but they are minor disagreements. When you look at Trump's overall accomplishments, he is a conservative president. So, throughout 2025, Trump's administration made a substantial progress on the goals of his conservative agenda aimed at reshaping federal policies. And boy, he has been busy. Here's another one. By late 2025, approximately 40% of the policies targeted reproductive rights and other areas that had been implemented, reflecting a concerted effort to align government actions with conservative values. In other words, he's putting the whole idea of the reproductive rights is you've heard the term fake news. This is a fake right. It's never mentioned historically. It's not something that biblically God has. If you want to have some reproductive rights, it's God's right. He has the right to give life and to take life. He has the right to for people to have babies. And so this is what this is doing. It's putting the reproductive rights, if you will, in the right area. It belongs to God, not to some government agency, and not to some woman. However, things happen to her, whether she was married, or more than likely, most of the cases are not because of rape and not because of um, let me just say this. A lot of times it's um, social choices they make. Now, there are a lot of women who have been kidnapped and what they call human trafficking, and they get pregnant. They don't have any rights at all. I'm not talking here about government rights, but there are people who are in control of them. These in human trafficking, women and children are prisoners. They are slaves, and so they have no control of their bodies because of that. But in the broader sense of our society, a great deal of the um, pregnancies came because women and men were involved in this too, by the way. But the women are the victims. Sometimes they're the victims of their own choices. Sometimes they're the victims of the men. But a large part of it is choices they make, and they're not according to the Bible, not according to any form of morality. But they just want to they want to be able to play around and not pay the consequences. And so this has been something that has dominated our life for a long time now. And President Trump has taken some steps. It's not going to be eliminated. You're still going to have people messing around, having fun, if you will, put that in quotes, uh, and trying to, and then they don't want to pay the consequences. But I will say this too, even in cases where the rare cases where the health of the mother is involved, um, there have been examples of people who they planned on aborting and they didn't, and that child that was so close to being aborted turned out to be play a historical importance both here and in around the world. So taking a life, it's just something you don't do. If it meets the biblical view as expressed in Genesis of not hurting um, to preserve the life of the woman, then you might have an argument. But even there's different scenarios. It depends upon, we're not talking about a woman being embarrassed or a woman uh, having psychological problems and things of this nature. I'm talking about physical life. And so then they have to weigh it, and then that's almost on an individual basis. So you're getting into theology here, which I'm not a theologian, so I'm going to stop. But I just wanted to point out here that's an important issue, which he has taken, in my opinion, the right attitude on. He's also other areas of conservative actions. Here's another thing: executive actions. The administration executed a large number of executive orders and policy shifts, including a significant tax reforms and regulatory rollbacks. By mid 2025, over 210 executive orders have been issued, signaling a reliance on unilateral presidential power to enact changes quickly. There's two reasons for that. One is historically, Congress has been slow, and presidents on both parties have been frustrated. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is a bad thing when you have in the past, we've had a conservative president and a liberal Congress. So as far as he is able to, through his constitutional powers that he has, to enact these things, these executive orders, then he's done an outstanding job of it, and I don't think he's abused it at all, as opposed to perhaps his predecessor. Here's another one: economic claims. The administration touted a major tax package called the One Big Beautiful Bill, claiming it delivered the largest tax cut in history and increased take-home pay for many Americans. Now, these claims, some people wonder about when are they supposed to be taking place. You got to remember, we live in a capitalist society, and decisions made up here at the top level eventually filter down to those of us on the lower levels. Well, it takes time. And so these decisions that the Trump administration are making are up here, and they're slowly working their way down. And we're seeing it. In some cases, you see it right away. Some cases, it's still futuristic. But we are seeing it. I think in one case is in the gas. I may talk about that more in a moment, but gas prices where I live, it's really down. It's down below $3 and going down. These accomplishments reflect a year of significant policy changes and political maneuvering, setting the stage for the upcoming midterm elections and shaping the future of U.S. domestic and foreign policy. So here's my opinion. This is only a very brief look at his accomplishments. Though the media is forced to acknowledge them, you have to truly scrutinize their coverage to find acceptance. The article I read, I had to go in and make some changes in it because it was more biased. There was some actual bias. So I replaced it with my bias. but basically, I replaced it with facts as I have seen them. And so that was not characteristic throughout the whole thing, but there was a couple of places there I had to do that. The truth is that the accomplishments of the president surpass previous presidents by a large margin. He has settled wars, several of them, more than several, and is working on others, Ukraine being one. Meanwhile, there are signs that the economy is recovering from the Biden years. This one of the biggest signs, and this is what I referred to a moment ago, that I have personally seen and experienced is the lower cost of gas. And when you get the gas going down, the prices on other products is going to eventually be reflected. It's not same day. It usually takes a little bit of time, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. I think it's going to pick up here in 26 more and more. So while it does and likely will continue to have ups and downs, it is trending downward. And even in California, where they have extremely high gas prices, I believe even they are experiencing a downward trend. And that, folks, is always good news. Now, it's referred to often that President Trump has an ego. Well, we all do. He is noticed because he's president of the United States. And yes, his ego has been stroked. And yes, he was denied the Peace Prize, which he should have gotten compared to who others who have gotten it in the past. But he has a right to be proud of what he has accomplished. It's phenomenal, and phenomenal. I got, I'm going to have trouble with words today. Phenomenal. But then it's just, I've never seen it in my lifetime. I mean, if you look down through history, I don't think you see anything in comparison to it. Unless you want to look at President Washington, he was the very first president, so everything he did was better than anything that ever happened before because there was no one before him. I believe this first year has been laying a foundation for the remaining 3 years. And that's something to remember, folks. This has been an exciting year. A lot has happened, but he's only been in office now for a year. It's amazing. His goal of making America great again is on course. To me, his greatest accomplishment has been getting government out of the way of Christians. I wish he hadn't created the White House Office of Faith. He did so in his first term and he's done it again. If it is only to advise, I'm not too alarmed, but I would rather it didn't exist at all because could someday be used by a future president who may not be a Christian, and he'll use it against Christians. But getting government out of the way of Christianity is a truly great accomplishment. I believe Christians are having growth and greater influence because of this greater freedom. All in all, I think that President Trump has had a solid and a fantastic start to his second term. But I also have to have this following statement. I've made it before. You have to keep in perspective here. He wants to make America great again. He can only do it to a certain degree on his own. And even then, he's not doing it really on his own. He's being empowered by God to do it. But God, in the greater sense of the whole United States, God is bringing up revivals. And that is where God directly is working in the lives of Christians to go out to promote the gospel, to witness to other people. And we're seeing revivals pop up here and there. We're not hearing about them through the press. You're not going to unless they're forced to, but they are happening. And part of that was the assassination of Kirk. And it's just amazing what has happened since then. And God used that young man. What, he only 33 years old, something like that. God used that young man to spark conversation, if you will, and to he's impacted the youth, really. And so that is something that's important. And he played a role even in President Trump getting reelected. So in the end, it's God. And it only happens if we as a nation, as a people, turn back to God. Then we will truly be great again. I hope you've enjoyed this. I always try to inform you, encourage you, and inspire you. And this is brought to you by T&R Independent Books. You can reach us at terbookservices.com. And I hope and pray that you have a great day. And as we go into the weekend, you have a great weekend. And I'll see you in the next episode.